Hello, and thank you for joining us today. You are logged into the Joint Council of MLS, CMLS, and RISO, Real Estate Standards Organization webinar on Understanding Data Dictionary Certification. We want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to both the Council of MLS website and the RISO website. We will also send all attendees a link to the webinar recording. My name is Danae Evans, and I'm the CEO of CMLS. CMLS is the National Association for MLSs, and we are working to bring you important industry information and keep you educated on all things MLS. If you're not already a member of CMLS, I would encourage you to visit our website at councilofmls.org and look into joining our organization. We'd also like to let you know, just in case you haven't heard, about our conference, CMLS 2015. It is our annual conference, and it will be held in Kansas City, October 7th through the 9th, hosted by Heartland MLS. We have a pretty amazing agenda put together with several speakers from both outside and inside our industry, and we'll be discussing leadership, technology, and the future of real estate. Each one of these speakers, we're planning on following up with industry panels, so bringing your peers and colleagues to the table to discuss how these topics apply directly to your local MLS. So, today's purpose. Most of you know MLS is owned and operated by realtor associations, need to be data dictionary compliant by the end of the year, and today's topic is understanding data dictionary certification. The intended audience for today's webinar is MLS data experts and technologists, but we are happy to have anyone interested join us or listen to the three webinars. CMLS adopted data dictionary certification as one of our key initiatives for 2015 with the goal of helping all of our CMLS members certify by the end of the year. We decided the best way to do this was to partner with RISO and help get the information out about data dictionary, what it is, what are the benefits, and how to do it. Today is the third and final of 3 webinars that we designed to help get you the information you need for successful certification. You can find a link to the previous 2 webinars on, again, both websites for RISO or Council of MLS. First one, we discussed the purpose and benefits of implementing data dictionary, and our last webinar was about preparing for data dictionary in the future. Today's call is going to cover what to expect during the application and certification process, how to fill in the applications, and an explanation of data dictionary testing rules. One thing I'd like everyone just to please note, your vendor is not just taking care of this for you. You must submit for your certification, not your vendor. So in case you didn't have your pen ready, go ahead and write that down. You must take action to become data dictionary compliant. It is definitely something you will talk with your vendor about and work with them. They play a key role in this, but the certification is done by the individual MLS to RISO. So I just want to make sure that's clear. I've heard that said several times, and we just want to really be able to support you and get you that information to make sure you can become compliant. We would like to let everybody know that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, the presentation. So if you could please type your questions into the bar during the course of the presentation, that would be fantastic. And we are scheduled for 1 hour for this webinar, but as we've done the last 2 webinars, we had so many great questions coming in that we actually extended it, and we have allotted an hour and a half. So we will officially end it at after 1 hour, but know that we will be staying on. The panelists, Jeremy and panelists, will be staying on to answer additional questions as they may come in. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Jeremy Crawford, the Executive Director of RISO. Jeremy has been with RISO for about 5 months. He previously was with MLS Listings in California, and I will let Jeremy introduce our panelists for today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Danae. And thank you for helping hosting this and making the Data Dictionary one of the Council of MLS's strategic initiatives in partnership with RISO, so we can help the business needs of the industry as best we can jointly. Today we're going to go through the steps of data dictionary certification, but first let me introduce everyone that's going to be on the call presenting. Greg Lemon. Greg Lemon is RISO's certification and compliance expert. And so for anybody that is applying for data dictionary certification or for next year's web API certification, then chances are you'll be heavily involved with Greg in some instances, and in other instances you'll be lightly involved with him as you do the application, and then he works in conjunction with the vendor once the application's in place. So Greg does run all of that for RISO. And we also have two MLSs represented today who have already obtained their data dictionary certifications. So we have Rick Trevino, who is the IT director at MetroList in Sacramento, and they have certified on 2 versions of the data dictionary to date and gone through the process extensively with Greg. And we also have Audrey Bagnon, who is with MRIS in Washington, D.C. as their systems analyst, and MRIS has also obtained their data dictionary certification. So they will be on as a panel to help let you know what they did and their process and working with RISO and be able to answer any questions you might have from the MLS perspective, if you will. So if we'll go first to the agenda, we're going to briefly review the NAR MLS policy mandates, and then I am going to pass the baton over to Greg, and Greg's going to spend some time with you talking about the data dictionary certification process. What is the overall process? What does certification actually mean for comparing your MLS to the RISO data dictionary to gain certification? What are the simple steps to apply for certification? And we do have some few simple steps for you to be able to quickly apply. And as Danae did mention, and I like to reiterate, is it is the MLS's responsibility to make the application for certification. And I often am asked, why is that? And that is because the MLS and the realtor-owned associations are governed by the NAR policy and not the actual MLS vendor. And the NAR policy ties directly back to those realtor-owned or affiliated association and MLSs directly. With that also being said, is some MLSs use more than one vendor, and so at times RISO is agnostic to which vendor is part of the process when an MLS applies for certification. So an MLS can use any one of many vendors to implement the data dictionary and then use that to gain their certification, and RISO is agnostic of that, so the MLS really needs to apply. And then we're going to open it up for a panel discussion to talk about the lessons learned and the processes that Rick and Audrey went through at MetroList and MRIS, respectively, to gain their certifications, and open it up for Q&A. And again, if you can go ahead and ask any of your questions in the GoToMeeting webinar panel, then towards the end of the session, we'll try to leave at least 20 minutes open for Q&A, and if we do go over the scheduled time of 1 p.m. Eastern, then we will leave the webinar running and try to get through as many questions as we possibly can, and we'll provide our contact information as well at the end. So if you didn't get a chance or you do a re-review of the video or your notes, then please feel free to send us questions in after the fact. So to discuss the NAR policy mandate, last year in November, the NAR MLS Policy Committee passed 2 very key important mandates for the RISO certification process and standards adoption. The first is Data Dictionary, which states that all realtor-owned or affiliated MLSs must certify through the RISO certification program and obtain a Data Dictionary certification. Today we have 2 versions of the Data Dictionary that are active, which is 1.3 and 1.4, and you can certify on either of those versions, and I would encourage you to work with your vendor for which version that they will implement for you, as some MLS vendors are going directly to 1.4 while others are doing 1.3. And then next year, there is a transport certification, which is called the RISO Web API, and you will need to become certified on that by June 1st, 2016. Again, this is the similar process you would work with your vendor when your vendor is ready for implementation. The Web API has been, the standards has been passed and ratified by the RISO Board of Directors, And many of the vendors are already working to implement that in an environment and make that available to you as one of your core MLS services. Some MLSs do their own software development, and I know that many of them are already working internally to implement that as well. So again, the MLS must apply for the certifications, but we will work extensively with whatever vendor you have for whatever needs you need us to do so to make sure that we do get you certified. It's our goal to make sure that you do obtain your certification by the end of this year for Data Dictionary and for Q2 next year for the Web API, as we want everyone to be able to adopt the standards to help solve many of the business needs across all the constituents in the industry, such as the vendors, the brokers, and the multiple listing services. So those are the NAR policy mandates. And now I want to go ahead and pass this over to Greg, and Greg is going to start talking about the Data Dictionary certification process, what that means, what we're actually doing with certification, how it works, how the application process works, and what we can do to bring you from today all the way to being certified when you're ready to do so in conjunction with your vendor. Greg?
Thank you very much, Jeremy. It's good to meet everyone here today, and thank you for joining the webinar. My goal today is that Data Dictionary certification, any questions or confusions or concerns are resolved today so that you have a clear understanding of what needs to happen going forward. There is a two-step process. First, every MLS, with assistance of their vendor or their in-house development staff, needs to implement the Data Dictionary on their servers. And implementation simply is getting your server compliant with the information in Data Dictionary. We have a mantra in the Data Dictionary that if you do it and the dictionary does it, then you must do it the dictionary way. And there's two parts to that. The first part of that is that if you do it. This means that there are no minimum requirements. There's no fields that you need to add. You, as an MLS or an organization, are under complete control of what information you make available by way of your Data Dictionary compliant implementations. You don't need to add anything if you don't want to. But if you have it and the dictionary has it, then you need to do it the way the dictionary has defined it. Certification is just the simple steps of comparing what you already have implemented in your system, your data structures, with the definitions in the Data Dictionary. The Data Dictionary does have many fields in there that may not apply to your individual needs, and that's okay. You do not have to implement everything there. The process that we'll be going through today is to share some of the rules that you'll need to be familiar with when we go through the testing process. We have published the Data Dictionary testing rules. These are available at riso.org/certification. This documentation defines all of the criteria for testing each of the individual fields. Now, the testing for Data Dictionary is transport independent. That means you're not required to use a specific technology for implementing your Data Dictionary. The only thing that is important is that it's structured correctly. Currently, the RETS1X transport is the one that we are certifying, and we have the procedures in place today for certifying your Data Dictionary installation. We are developing other testing procedures for other transports, and there will be one for the Web API in the coming year. So it's just important to realize that we're not mandating a specific transport as a requirement to receive Data Dictionary certification. You may have heard that there are different levels of Data Dictionary certification. We have our core, which is the minimum testing rule requirement to receive certification, and we also have precious metal levels from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And those individual requirements are documented in this PDF, but also we'll review that information today. When you go to riso.org/certification, we have two major types of certifications. The one that you're interested in is found under the button for the NAR-mandated data dictionary certifications. Once you click that page link, you'll be taken to a page where the information about data dictionary certification will be displayed for you. As I've said, the data dictionary testing procedure, we test every single field individually. And depending on what type of field you have, we can have up to 5 different tests. The standard name, meaning have you mapped the field correctly? The data type and interpretation, what kind of field do you have? There is the suggested maximum length. Do you have enough room to store the information for the field? Precision is, are you using a decimal or are you using a whole number or an integer? And then, of course, enumerations for our pick list or lookup values. In the table on the right, I have some examples here of some data dictionary fields. Listing ID is a regular string field where it can hold up to 255 characters. Because it's a string field, precision and enumerations are not applicable. So the listing ID is only tested on 3 of the 5. The property subtype is a single select lookup. Its descriptions can be up to 50 characters long. Again, no precision because it's a lookup, but it is a locked enumeration, meaning the values that you have need to match the enumerations that are defined in the data dictionary. For example, active, pending, hold, etc. We do have date fields, number fields, and Boolean fields as well. And more information and a complete list of the fields that are in the data dictionary are available online in those spreadsheets. Now, not all differences between your data set and the data dictionary are considered equal. Some are more critical than others. When we review those 5 tests for the field, we will determine if you're compliant, meaning you've matched the standard in the data dictionary, if there's an error, warning, or a notice. Now, at this time, error is the only thing that will prevent certification. And specifically for Data Dictionary 1.3, an error in a core field. I'll talk more about core fields and others on the next slide. It is possible to still not match the data dictionary exactly, and you'll receive a warning or a notice. The difference between the two is that for a warning, you must fix that within 12 months, or the next time that you certify on that dictionary standard. A notice are things that, yes, you're different than the data dictionary defines, but there's no requirement to fix that in 12 months or in the future. It's just important that you know that there is a difference, or those who use your information know that there's a difference, but it's so minor that it can be looked over at this time. How we determine certification is every single field is identified as a core, bronze, silver, gold, or platinum field. For core certifications, the data dictionary field has to be compliant in all 5 aspects and mapped correctly. If you receive an error in a core field, you will not be certified on the data dictionary. That does not mean you have to implement every single core field, only those that you use. Currently, Data Dictionary 1.3 has about 166 core fields. You may select any number of those depending on your implementation. But if you do it, and the dictionary does it, you need to do it the dictionary way, and these core fields are the most important. With Data Dictionary 1.4 and going forward, we've identified bronze, silver, gold, and platinum fields. These are for those MLSs who wish to go above and beyond core field. And if all of your bronze fields are compliant, you will receive a bronze certification. The same with silver and gold. We reserve the classification of Data Dictionary Platinum for those who are 100% compliant. This means that there are no cautionary warnings or notices of any type on any mapped field. So the application process is fairly simple. The first thing you need to do is implement the data dictionary on your own system, either internally or with the help of your vendor. We have a supplemental application information packet that we do request that MLSs fill, because all of the information required to go through the certification process can't be handled via web form, nor can be extracted from the data structure that we analyze. The whole process begins at riso.org/certification, and when you visit that page, you'll again see this button, and you'll be able to begin the process at that time. A little bit more about the supplemental application information. Certification is a process. Here's a bit.ly link that you'll be able to review and download this Excel-based spreadsheet, and has information and instructions available within it. The additional information that may be required are your resource and class mappings. We have, in the data dictionary, we have things like property, member, contacts, media, etc. You may call those different things on your system. It's not required that you perfectly call your resources the exact same thing as we have defined in the data dictionary. But if you do use different names, I need to know what they are, and so that I can evaluate the resources according to the correct testing standards. Also, if you have known non-compliant fields, it'd be nice if you could put those in there as well, so that when the testing procedure spits out at the error list, if you already know that there's a problem, then you can provide, that would just save me the steps. At this time, duplicate lookup values are allowed so that you can move the lookups into the correct places, and in your help to transition your lookups from a non-compliant location to a compliant location. But if you do have those lookups, we need to know about those, and you can document that in there. The most important one is your external lookup validations. Within the data dictionary, we have many things that are enumerated. You can, for example, your state field. You are not required to implement your state field or any of the lookups within the data structure itself. You can validate those externally. If you validate your lookups through your user interface that your users use, or you have a database that validates it outside of the RET server, those are allowed. But I need to know about that, because without knowing if a field is externally validated, it will look like a string to lookup mapping, and that will result in an error. So informing me before the fact through the supplemental application that you have an externally validated lookup field will save time in the long run. Your MLS vendor may be able to help assist you in filling out the supplemental application information. And if you do have any questions on the instructions, please feel free to contact me. Certification@riso.org is my email, and we'll be able to work through that information. Here's a screenshot of what it will look like when you go to the riso.org/certification website. You'll scroll down a bit and you'll see the certification overview, and you'll click the button on the left. On the certification page, you're going to find some important information. The links to certify are in the table in the middle column. If you're applying for Data Dictionary 1.3, we have the first row, 1.4 on the second row. There, we also have the overview documentation for additional information about the product, and most importantly, in the rightmost column, we have the rules that will be applied during the testing process. So that PDF that I had linked a couple of screens ago, that is where you will find it on this page. We also have some additional important links there as well: the fee schedule, the core field list, and also a link to the supplemental application information is available on this page publicly to whoever visits. Once you click the application link, the click here to apply, you'll be taken to a page requesting that you log in. Here is where you will use your RISO membership credentials to receive the certification discount for members. There are different prices depending on your membership type. And so here you'll be able to log in and receive the discount as appropriate. RISO non-members are still able to join RISO at that time by clicking the link, or they can go ahead without joining and they provide their email and continue through the certification process. This is the important information that we need to receive at this time because we are certifying data dictionaries on the RETS 1X platform. So filling out you'll fill out the information here with your information. If you are already a RISO member, this information will be filled out for you. You'll see that you have the different certification costs, and then be able to provide the information about your system. As you can see, the fields at the bottom part of the screen is where you enter in your RETS server credentials. And it's important to, at the bottom, what kind of RETS server are you using, the 1.8, 1.7.2, etc. To begin the process, you need to accept the terms and conditions set forth here in the application. There's a checkbox all the way at the bottom stating that you agree to the terms and conditions. Also, after this application has been submitted, you will receive an email requiring you to sign our trademark agreement. This trademark agreement allows you to display the RISO logo, the certification logo, on your website as a member or a certified recipient. After the application has been submitted, I'll do the testing and I will provide you back some generated reports. These reports will show what fields have passed compliance, what hasn't, and where you're current standing. If you have passed the certification test sufficiently, you'll be notified that, congratulations, you are now certified on the Data Dictionary. At that time, you may wish to have a review session where we can go over the results of the test. Even though you may qualify for a core or a bronze, if you wish to retest so that you can get something higher, like the gold or platinum, we can talk about it at that time. Depending on the things that I find in the generated reports, additional information may be required because certification is a process and we want to have as many people certified as possible. And that's it. That's the certification process in a nutshell. And at this time, we will turn the presentation back over to Jeremy to talk about what's next.
Thank you, Greg. So simple steps, as I did promise earlier in the webinar, is what you need to do ASAP. And I say ASAP because we're in September and we're only a few months away from the deadline. So the first advice I would give everyone to the group is to, if you haven't already, and many of you have, contact your MLS vendor regarding certification. Make sure that you understand your MLS vendor's timelines and the process on how they are going to help implement the data dictionary for you. Different vendors will have a different process and they will have a different timeline, with many of the large MLS vendors covering most of the nation that will be ready between September and November of this year. So I would like to encourage everyone to do that. We do have on riso.org/certification in the instructions for you all, there is a page there that is vendor messaging. So there is a button on the right-hand screen there that will have some specific vendor messaging. Today, Black Knight Financial Services and CoreLogic have messages specifically regarding how they are going to do data dictionary certification and implementation, and who you need to contact to talk to them about that. We will be adding messaging from the other MLS vendors in the nation as they provide that to Rezo, so we want you to have an easy place to go. So once you contact your MLS vendor, you need to work with them on implementing Data Dictionary 1.3 or version 1.4. That is up to you and your MLS vendor as to which version that you would like to implement. There are some slight changes between the two, but the point of the Data Dictionary is to grow, not to change, not to cause an MLS conversion, if you will. So as you move along between now and the next 5 years, Rezo will be expanding the Data Dictionary to cover more local specific items such as pick list values. Where your agent is local in Florida or Hawaii, they may choose Lanai. Lanai would be important for them but may not be important in Missouri. So we will be growing the Data Dictionary as we have more MLSs participating in their local market specifics that would only apply to them. And again, from the certification standpoint, if Lanai is required for Platinum certification and you don't have Lanai, then you can still obtain that because you are not implementing Lanai in your local market region. But if you do have Lanai, then that's something that we would want you to do as the Data Dictionary defines it from the standards. Once you have the implementation there, and again, your vendor may ask you to map fields. Mapping fields is simply letting the vendor know what your local field specific is as compared to how it is existing in the Data Dictionary. So you can look at the definition and they can help you with many of these fields, but some of the fields they don't know your local market as well as you do, and you'll want to help them to marry up where that field exists locally to you and if it's identified in the Data Dictionary. So once you've completed with your vendor implementing the Data Dictionary and you as a partnership with your vendor are ready, then you would need to go to rezo.org/certification and apply. And once you apply, again, we try to make it as simplistic as possible to get the information from you and start the process to get you your certification and work with you as well as your vendors to make sure that we can get you certified. We'll do everything possible we can do to get you certified. There is a Rezo trademark agreement that's part of the certification process, as Greg mentioned. This will allow you to, once you gain the Rezo certification, this will allow you to use the Rego logos on your website and in your materials so you can talk to your agents, your brokers, your leadership, and use those logos to advertise your level of certification. And then as soon as you do sign the Rezo trademark agreement, and we use DocuSign, so it is an electronic signature process, then Greg will start beginning the compliance testing. And as soon as Greg has completed that, we will issue a certification certificate, and we do place those on rezo.org/certificates. So once you are certified, we'll issue a notice. We'll make sure that you're ready to post that certificate, because at times some MLSs would like to do a press release in advance of us posting that they gained their certification, and you'll have your certification certificate there online at rezo.org/certification. So very important there. And now we want to move into having a discussion with our panelists, Audrey and Rick, and let them reiterate to you what they did specifically in their process. So I want to first go ahead and let Audrey, if you could, could you give us just 5 or 10 minutes of the process that you went internally? I know you do host your own MLS system there at MRIS. Could you let us know the process for you to do the 6 simple steps of implementing and applying for certification and how that process went? Do we have Audrey still available? I don't hear Audrey. I believe she's muted. So if we can unmute. Rick, are you available on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. Rick, I'll turn the same question over to you while Audrey is still currently muted.
Well, hello, and thank you for inviting me to be part of the panel. We are an MLS in Northern California with a little over 17,000 participants and subscribers. We do contract with a national vendor for our MLS service. However, we're unique as we host and maintain the MLS system and the RED service from our co-location data center here in Sacramento. From the years of attending the RISO conferences and participating in the Data Dictionary work group, we recognized the value of the Data Dictionary. We became the first MLS to adopt the Data Dictionary. The organization, we've seen the benefits that we could provide to our brokers and our agents. We knew that there could be new and enhanced products. The time to market of these products and services would be reduced as the technologists could spend time on innovation instead of mapping the data and trying to normalize it on their own. It's important, as Jeremy was saying, that you work with your MLS vendor to map the data for each field and go through your pick lists or your lookups to ensure that they're represented and expressed in the Data Dictionary format. Now, we were certified initially on the 1.3 and at the core level. At that time, our goal was to achieve the 1.3 Data Dictionary certification and with the least impact to the participants and subscribers, and get the highest value for the effort. Early on during the mapping process, we made a business decision to map all or as many fields as we could to the Data Dictionary. And this turned out to be a strategic decision that was critical in certifying later on for the Data Dictionary 1.4. The key component was not to perform massive form changes or input changes, as we know, because they're very disruptive to the end users, the participants. So they're disruptive on the input process, during the searching, and the reports. In certifying for the 1.3, we identified that there really were only a few fields that we'd have to make changes to, some fine-tuning and on the input forms. Now, we were very fortunate that we only had a handful of changes, and essentially it's because in the past we've had major changes to the input forms over the years to the different field data types and the pick list. The RED service in our implementation has always been and still is to transform the data as the records are being delivered via REDS. We make a call from our REDS servers to the MLS database for the listing and then map that field to the Data Dictionary field the way the Data Dictionary states it should be delivered. Now, we still maintain our REDS server prior to the Data Dictionary certifications for the balance of our REDS vendors. And we will be slowly migrating the existing REDS vendors to the Data Dictionary feed. Now, as for Data Dictionary 1.4, we pulled down the draft copy in advance and we review the changes. We need to make this clear. I know that Jeremy kind of stated that 1.4 is an expansion of 1.3. It's not a complete overhaul or major changes from 1.3. We reviewed and analyzed the spreadsheet and determined for all the data that we expose, that is for all the property classes, we have 4 of those, the member and the office, media, and open house, that we only needed to update about 20 fields to be 1.4 compliant. We coordinated with the one vendor that's using our 1.3 implementation of the changes, and we went ahead and updated it to 1.4. Now, we do make changes to our staging site, but to become RISO compliant, you do need to make it on your production service. So now the vendor is consuming data in the 1.4 format. The key difference this time when we applied for the RISO certification was There was no changes that we had to do on the MLS. There was no field changes or input changes. The only change was we had to do on the red service, the transformation of the data. When the announcement was made that the certification for 1.4 was available, we immediately applied online at rezo.org, completed the supplemental application, and paid the fees. At a later time, our certification report we received, and we found out it's very thorough. At a high level, I was able to view a snapshot of our errors and our warnings in relationship to the levels of certification that Greg was showing us. We didn't pass initially. We had a handful of errors and warnings. The Rezo testing tool, from our experience, is extensive, rigorous, and it validates each field that it exposed: the property, the member, the office. We reviewed the report and were able to drill down to the specific field that needed the correction. And the report itself had a well-defined description of why the field was not compliant. We did have a brief call with Greg to review, as this was the first time he used the tool for the 1.4. We internally updated the field transformations in the red server, not on the MLS database. We replied back to the email requesting another round of testing. Now, we've done this a few iterations of this, and after 3 days, we received the email that we were certified on 1.4 Platinum. The work initially to get certified did take considerable effort from our team, the MLS vendor, to map every field, not just the core. We write the scripts to transform the data, and very importantly, we verified each and every value. The certification experience of the 1.3 from Rezo was professionally efficient, and certifying to 1.4 was relatively little work on our end due to the business decision of mapping all the fields initially. And the certification process of 1.4 from Rezo, specifically Greg, was easy, smooth, and straightforward. And that's all I have for now. Jeremy, back to you.
Thank you. So I believe Audrey is now unmuted. And Audrey, could you add some commentary there for your process at MRIS on implementing and certifying on the data dictionary?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yay.
We can.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was very easy, actually. You know, one of the first thing to do is just start to do it. I went through a process of, you know, memorizing the certification overview and the rules. The documents that Rezo put out and that Greg designed are exceptional, very thorough. I read through them and just started to dive in and map our data. Just start with the core. The core fields, you'd be surprised at how many we already had that matched. No real issues there. And there's only 166 out of the 571, I believe it is, so it went very quick. And yes, you would be surprised at how many you actually already have. So we started doing that, and then kept on going a little bit more. And I presented, I filled out the application and presented Greg with all of the information he needed. He downloaded our metadata, and I noted exactly what was different, what he had to look for in all of the different resources. And he returned the raw data report, and we did have a few errors, a few warnings and notices. I was able to correct those and resubmit it. And we did this all in our test environment first. He was grateful. I'm grateful for Greg, as he was very patient. He did it in our test environment, and then we fixed what we needed to fix, and he certified us in the production environment. So basically, that's all it is. It's just diving in and starting. And you know, he is talking about the supplemental application, and that's important because there are things, your external lookup validation he needs to know up front, like your cities and your schools. Those are externally validated in our system, so he needs to know that so he doesn't throw any warnings or cautions for you. So that's where we stand now. I think that's all I have for now.
Great. All right, thank you, Audrey. So let's go ahead and, Greg, since we have about 15 minutes left, I want to go ahead and jump into some of the Q&A, and then we'll see if these are for Rezo or for the panelists. So the first question I believe we've answered, but we'll make sure it's covered again, is what are the differences between 1.3 and 1.4? So 1.4 is primarily an expansion. So as Rick had mentioned, it was not too difficult to jump into 1.4 from 1.3. The purpose is to build upon the standards and bring in more fields into the data dictionary, more values in a list that your agent might select on a listing input form that's not currently in the data dictionary there today. We are currently working on a data dictionary 1.5. A lot of that will be more values added to the menu selections an agent would pick from their listing input form, if you will. And so 1.5 will be an expansion of that. Again, we call those enumerations, a technical term, but for many of you, you'll know those as pick list values or selection values that your agents would pick when they're entering in a listing. So you will see growth there. You will see growth across more property types, and you will see growth as more information comes in from smaller and medium market areas for that. And so you can expect Q2 of next year, if not Q1, there'll be a data dictionary version 1.5. And what will that mean for certification? And this is leading into the next question, is that the Rezo certification process is that you must certify on the most recent 2 versions. So today, 1.3 or 1.4. And when you go to recertify, then you'll need to take a look and see what the 2 most recent versions are, so that nationally each MLS can start to elevate themselves to a true national data standard and provide brokers data across multiple market segments, multiple MLSs, in a common standardized manner. And so that is the intent, to grow that. And so the question that comes about, how often do we need to certify? Certifications are good for 1 year, and after 1 year, you would need to recertify for that. You can recertify on either the latest 2 versions that exist that has been ratified by the Rezo Board of Directors. And so next year, if you certify on 1.3 and 1.4, or if you certify on 1.3 this year in the fall, chances are next year in the fall, when you go to renew your certification, you'll have to instead certify on 1.4 or 1.5. Many large MLS vendors plan on implementing 1.4. As Rick mentioned, it wasn't that much of a leap. And so you may talk to your MLS vendor and certify on 1.4, knowing that next year you could, if you wanted to, recertify on 1.4 versus having to certify on a new version, if you will. And so that was the question regarding how often you need as an MLS to certify. There's a question on certifying at a higher level. Is that an additional fee? Absolutely not. I don't believe Rick paid us any extra money for his Platinum certification. Again, Platinum is there for the purposes to help the business needs of the industry. So there's no fee schedule differences that exist between the levels of certification. So if you can obtain bronze or silver, then you're going to be providing a slightly better business objective out to those that receive data from you, and being prepared to more easily certify down the road as you need to do that. And that leads us into the question of what is the benefit of doing more by completing the GEM status, if you will. And I think Rick touched on that briefly, is that we want to try to provide the brokers and the technology vendors the most common nationwide set as possible. And so the higher you implement the data dictionary in your local market, the higher everyone together as a partnership elevates the standards that exist across markets and helps alleviate many of the broker pain points and vendor technology pain points. This really helps agents gather more standardized tools and have it integrate with MLS data in a quicker time frame than in the past, where everyone has an individual data set that does not look like the data set next to the other MLS, if you will. So you're really providing a higher business level benefit out to your brokers, your agents, your participants and subscribers, and to the vendors, and you're actually reducing some of the costs that you have in overhead of supporting your data feeds. When the data is standard, many new vendors in your market will have already consumed a gem level standard from someone such as Metrolist, and then they would be more easily integrated into your market with their product. Do you start the certification application before or after your data has been mapped from the MLS vendor? And this is where we would really want you to work with your MLS vendor to see when are they going to be ready for certification. There are 770 MLSs in the nation, and Greg has nightmares about processing 770 MLSs of certification by the end of the year. So I would recommend to everyone that they stay on the pulse of their MLS vendor and know when the MLS vendor is very close to having the data dictionary completed for implementation, and at that point apply for certification. We would not want you to apply for certification far in advance of when your vendor would be ready, as Greg would just have an idle pending outstanding application, and he really would like to take those on and be ready to jump into certification immediately. So if you can keep the pulse onto your vendor as to when they're ready, and at that point then trigger really quickly the application process. And at times it does take a few minutes to fill that out. I do advise people, if your vendor is really close, they're not there yet, but they're a few days or they're a week or so, then go ahead and do the application process, if you will. And then we will put you in the queue and get you ready to go. There's a question here. What happened is some core fields like listing ID is numeric and not character. For performance purposes, most of our fields are numeric fields. So to Greg's point, if it is defined in the data dictionary and you have that field in your database, then you do need to implement that in a data dictionary compliant manner. If you have a field in your database that is not in the data dictionary, something that you do locally or different, including field types, then you do not have to certify against that. And so I would encourage you to look at the specific fields of in question, and you can email Greg at certification@reso.org and ask him on specific data dictionary fields versus how you do it and how that would affect the certification process.
Jeremy, can I jump in here?
Yes, please do, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah. If you go to the Data Dictionary 1.4.0 testing rules and you go to section 222, there you will see the specifics of the data type and interpretation conversion rules, where you will have a section listing those that are compliant, those that will receive errors, and those that receive notices. The example that and we're trying to think of logical flow of information from your system into the data dictionary from the point of view of someone consuming the information. So certification right now is one direction. In general, if you match exactly, you're compliant. If you can transform the information without a loss of information, you'll get either a notice or warning depending on the conversion type. So for example, if you have a whole number and the data dictionary is expecting to have a decimal place, like money, you store your dollars in whole dollars, but the data dictionary expects 2 decimal points for the cents, well, you'll receive a notice for that. Is it because it's really easy to throw on a 00 for the pennies? So as long as you don't lose information, you'll most likely get a notice or a warning. But we do, for Platinum, you must match exactly without notices, without warnings. And again, section 222 within the testing rules documentation has an exhaustive list of the compliance errors and warnings that you will receive. So, and if you do have any questions, feel free to send me an email at certification@reso.org. Thank you.
Great. There's a question, is it possible to conduct an initial test run without officially applying for certification? Two-part answer. One, Greg is currently looking for Data Dictionary 1.4 implementations to test as a beta. And so if you have a 1.4 Data Dictionary implementation that you would like to test that, then the answer there is yes. Secondarily, we are in the midst of working on a bulk compliance testing tool. And once that tool set is available, it will probably be maybe a month or so, there will be a guest option so you can log in and put in your RETS credentials, and it will run a test and give you a summary report, and you will be able to do that as either a guest or an anonymous user and see how you stack up against the Data Dictionary as a test run. And you will be able to do that without officially applying for certification. One question that I do receive often, what is the penalty that MLSs will face if they do not meet the compliance deadline by NAR? So this is an NAR mandated MLS policy. So NAR would set the penalties surrounding that. It's my understanding that many MLSs use the NAR E&O insurance that's provided to realtor associations and affiliated multiple listing services. And I do believe that mandated compliance with that policy is required to retain your NAR provided E&O insurance, is my understanding. However, with that being said, I would encourage you to ask NAR what their intentions are regarding not being in compliance with the model NAR MLS rules. As far as the fees for certification, and this is a great question that we receive often, certification fee schedules are based on member and non-member pricing, and they're also based on the size of your organization. If you are a non-RESO member, then the cost for certification is a flat $750 fee, and that is the current fee schedule as set by the RESO Board of Directors. If you are a RESO member, it is based upon your size of your organization, but the fee schedule for a member to certify starts at $150. So if you are an organization that is under 2,000 subscribers, it is cheaper to be a member of RESO and apply for certification than it is to certify as a non-member. As your organization does get larger, the membership fees do increase. Membership within RESO is organizational based. So all of your employees can have full access to RESO as a member when they join, and so larger organizations typically have more organizational employees that join RESO and participate, so that's why the fee schedules are there. If you look at reso.org/join, you can see the size of your membership and the associated fee schedule, and if you go to reso.org/certification, you will see a certification fee schedule at the bottom of the link below where Greg showed on the screen how to apply for certification. There is a full fee schedule there that does show certification fees for members and for non-RESO members. And again, as we grow the data dictionary, our point is to try to encompass market data from all areas. So we want to make sure that RESO is developing industry-wide standards that encompasses your local market. And so we encourage membership and participation within Data Dictionary or within the RESO Research and Development Work Group, amongst the many other groups that we have, which may be more technically oriented. And so therefore, that's for smaller organizations, it is easier and more financially beneficial to be a member, have full benefits of membership, and certify. And then recertification, the annual recertification, if you certify on the same version, it's a 50% discount to do that. And so all of those fee schedules that are there, if you certify on the same version, so let's say you do 1.4, this year, and then next year you need to recertify, it's a 50% off the price for certification. If you grow into your adoption, then the standard certification fee schedule applies. So if you adopted 1.4 this year and moved to 1.5 next year, the standard certification fee schedule will still apply. The API certification fee schedules currently will be in line with the data dictionary certification fee schedules. However, we are still working on finalizing the testing rules and the details for that, so it is possible that the fee schedules might change as Rezo is able to financially adjust everyone based upon everyone being certified. And so today, if you look at the data dictionary certification pricing, then the API certification pricing should be in line with that when it's available. We are coming up on the 12 o'clock mark. Well, I am Central Time, 1 o'clock on the East Coast, 10 o'clock on the West Coast. So Danae, I think that we can continue with questions, but I believe you wanted to thank everyone first and foremost, and then I have 6 or 8 more questions that have come in that I'll be happy to answer after the 1 p.m. Session. Danae?
Yes. So officially, we are ending at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Pacific time, and I really appreciate everyone being on here today, and we again will be posting this to both the CMLS website and the Rezo website, and so thank you so much for attending today, but we will continue on, Jeremy, because you still have some really great questions, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So, and to answer, will these slides be made available? We've recorded, as Danae had mentioned, we have recorded the entire session, and we'll post the video available online and send that link out to everyone, or you can find that link on cmls.org or on rezo.org.